Well, welcome back to another edition of Grindhouse, 42nd Street Pete's Grindhouse. And Grindhouse Resurrection 4 has finally been printed. I only got half of what I ordered because of the holiday, because of stuff, I don't know, it's either stuck in a warehouse or lost in transit or whatever. So, in my PayPal, as you know, Mr. 42nd Street Pete, MR42ND, Street spelled out, Pete spelled out, at yahoo.com is the PayPal. $20 ship because this is 140 pages. Will it be the last? Haven't made up my mind yet. But anyway, let's go back to Monster Kids and a 1964 film called The Strangler, starring Victor Buono. And this is right after Vic picked up an Oscar nomination for whatever happened to Baby Jane. So he had a lot of input into the film, which sometimes didn't work with a certain director he was with. He's also above the credits where it says Victor Buono is the Strangler. And it opens up with him strangling a scantily clad woman, which makes you wonder what the target audience of these films was and how they wound up at a kiddie matinee when they shouldn't have been at a kiddie matinee. But anyway, he is Leo Kroll, a lab assistant who strangles nurses with their pantyhose. And then he goes to this arcade in the middle of town where he's fascinated with this girl, Tally, who runs a ring toss game. And he wins every time and takes home a doll, and after he kills his victim, he sort of strips it and throws it in a drawer. Well, the whole backstory is that he's a sociopath, and his mother has basically castrated him and told him that all women are evil. And the woman is played by a woman who usually plays kind-hearted school teachers and people like that, Ellen Corby, who's a wheelchair-bound, miserable bitch who wants him there every night of the week, which he doesn't do. So, anyway, obviously there's been a string of these murders, and the police are sort of baffled, and he is called in a few times, but he is sociopathic enough to actually beat the lie detector test. Well, one night he doesn't go to see his mom, and his mom has almost a heart attack, and she's saved by this nurse. And once Leo finds this out, he's incensed and goes over to visit the nurse, knocking on her door, saying that basically he has to talk to her about his mother. And then he strangles her with his bare hands, which was a mistake because he's using pantyhose or nylons or whatever prior to this. But he always used rubber gloves too. So now the cops sort of are getting closer and closer to this thing. And this revelation, he is told by the doctor not to mention that this nurse was killed because it might set off his mom and have a heart attack. Well, of course, he mentions it to her and she has a heart attack and dies. So he goes back to the ring toss booth because he's definitely enamored with Tally, but her assistant is there talking to one of the police officers. And he sort of feels that she's giving him up, so again, he stalks her, goes back home and strangles her. Of course, this after she gets out of the shower. His frame is blocking the shower. See, Victor objected to some of the more subjective stuff in the movie, so it didn't make it in, and he also clashed with the director a lot, I had heard. So pretty much he goes to Tally now after murdering her friend and proposes to her because now that he's free from his domineering mother. Well, she's going to leave town anyway. Actually, she's going to leave town that night because she's all spooked and shit, so he's lying in wait to strangle her when he is shot by the police. This was released by Allied Artists. It was covered in some monster magazines that were aimed at kids for whatever, which I don't understand, but being that I was one of those kids, hey, what the fuck. So anyway, Victor had a long career, actually. He was in a couple spaghetti westerns. He was in 4 for Texas with Dean Martin and Frank Sinatra, where he was the bad guy and he was slapped around by Charles Bronson. Wrath of God with Robert Mitchum and John Colicos. A bunch of films, and I think some of his last performances were on Taxi, where he played the Reverend Jim's father. So, larger-than-life character actor, and the director for The Strangler was strange because it was a director named Bert Topper. And Bert Topper was one of the guys who directed all those World War II movies for AIP, you know, the ones where they got like 30 minutes of World War II footage, which they basically shoot a movie around and add 40 minutes of that, so it's like 70 minutes. And he had his stock company, which was Russ Bender, who did a lot of AIP stuff, Wally Campo, who also did a lot of stuff for Corman, and Baines Barron, who was in all these war movies. Let me see if I can remember what they were. Tank Commandos, Hell Squad, War is Hell, Suicide Commandos might have been one. I'm not sure, but there was a whole like handful of them, maybe 5 or 6 that were done by AIP using stock footage. And Burt also did the narration for this Mondo movie called Sedissimo. And there's also an early appearance by Hill Street Blues star James B. Sicking as some kind of consultant or something like that. So, is it worth checking out? Definitely. Victor pretty much plays a sociopath right to the hilt. And like I said, this is right off his Oscar-nominated performance in Whatever Happened to Baby Jane. So, that's our show for today. If you want to pick up Grindhouse Resurrection 4, the website, it will be on my website shortly. It's not there. I just sent 2 copies out to the webmaster, so I'm just putting the word out. So, that's our show for today. Thanks for subscribing. Thanks for tuning in. Above all, stay safe, and we'll catch you tomorrow for really weird cinema.